Today we will be starting a new manhwa. The story unfolds as a twilight sky. It rotted away into the darkness as the ground disintegrated. There was darkness everywhere, buildings crumbling, sky shattering into pieces with an ominous energy that filled the void. The place they'd called home for ages. The tower was falling apart, and they were powerless to do anything to stop it. So we've lost. Someone voiced out his thoughts to break the silence of defeat. Those were words no one dared to say because it felt like it would finally become true once it was spoken. They were afraid that even after all their sacrifices they would achieve nothing in the end. The tower that they had been living in for millions of years would crumble to dust along with them. The 10 gods who were gathered around started reminiscing their epics, remembering the times when they used to rule over the tower and all being in it. So is this the end? I never imagined that this would be how we part ways. Well said. I knew it had to end one way or another, but... Someone from the crowd spoke to break the silence. They were staring at the tower crumbling in front of their eyes. Let's not get mushy and make this quick. We're done for anyways. Everyone had lost their motivation to fight. They can foresee their end coming. Thousands of rankers had already fallen under the clutches of the foreign enemy that invaded the tower, and now only a few of them left. What can they do? What can they accomplish? What do you mean done for? It's not over yet. Someone slammed his rod on the ground and said. A platinum white-haired man holding a long staff spoke. The man was badly injured, his clothes tattered and his arm cut off. The evidence of intense battle can be seen through his body. It was Sun Wukong. He held the title of the Great Sage, Heaven's Equal, and was the protagonist of the myth Heavenly Realms Traitor. You're talking big for someone who's on the brink of death. I'm not dying. A huge muscular man walked forward and spoke. You might be an immortal, but can you keep acting so mighty in front of them, the outer gods? The one who disputed Sun Wukong's confidence was Hercules, wearing his lion's skin and wielding a broken club. Having brought victory in the war against the Titans, the greatest hero of Olympus was nearing death with one of his arms cut off. Hercules turned his head, staring at the beings flying far above the twilight skies. Gods of the other realm. Normal people would lose their life simply by looking at them. Such beings were tearing apart their world. They'll soon discover this place. There's a chance they already have. A pure white mass flew down from out of nowhere. All the gods turned their gazes toward the mass before looking back toward the person's voice. So I made it back. A young man appeared before them, wearing his battle armor with marks of severe battle left all over his body. It was Kim YuWon who entered the tower as a player, and made his way upward by challenging several floors and became a ranker, far more powerful than most of them. I thought I was going to die. Jet black hair with eyes just as dark, the man had short, messy hair. YuWon looked drained, taking slow steps towards the makeshift tree trunk chair before sitting down. It's just you? Hercules asked out of curiosity. The companions that left with him were nowhere to be found, and YuWon came back alone. It can be seen from his depressed look that no one was able to make it out alive from the battle with those evil creatures. Merlin, Azura, Vishnu. Are they all dead? Someone from the crowd asked YuWon. They were looking in anticipation to find even a little glimpse of hope. Yeah. YuWon nodded his head. They're all dead. The air became somber. The gods that left with YuWon were unable to come back. They were probably swallowed up by those beings, nourishing the other realm. The somber mood was short-lived. The gods turned their attention toward the pure white mass that YuWon threw. Who is this? Hercules asked YuWon about the white mass. YuWon was quiet for a moment, and then spoke. It is foolish chaos. It is the spirit of one of the outer creatures that destroyed the tower. What? The surviving gods were shocked by YuWon's response. They knew it wouldn't be someone normal when YuWon came back alone, but its identity was even greater than they imagined. Really? It's that guy? YuWon nodded his head. With this, I now know for a fact. An inner cannot beat an outer. YuWon realized the cold, hard truth in his fight against the foolish chaos. That was how beings that existed within the tower, like YuWon, were referred to. And those who were gathered here were beings that had risen to the top floor of the tower, forging their myth, earning divinity and a divine name. But even they couldn't compare to the gods of the other realm. This was something they knew all along. Since the start of this fight, when the gods of the other realm appeared. Their existence was a calamity, even to those who thought they were equal to a god. There is no way to win. The old man who was sitting in the corner spoke. For now, that is. The man stood up and walked towards YuWon and stretched out his hand to reveal a clock's internal mechanics in his palm. YuWon asked while staring at the old man, Chronos, is this the only way? Return to an old world line. And start over. Chronos spoke with a powerful voice, which contrasted with his hunchback and wrinkled face. Chronos was a being that possessed the divinity to control time. The items he crafted held powers relating to time. In the world line you will return to, I will probably have disappeared. It is a fair price to pay for the only way to go back in time and shift the world line. So do not waste your energy looking for me. So you will cease to exist? YuWon asked the old man. I do not know in what form it will be, but my disappearance does not matter. Their story had already ended, which is why YuWon wanted the fight to end here. However, the fight was a loss in the end. Now, there was no other option but to return. If possible, I wanted to end this here. This is the last chance. Chronos spoke with a powerful voice. So who is going to go back in the past? Everyone's eyes turned to YuWon. It was already decided who would be returning to the past. The only thing remaining was YuWon's decision. I expected it, but it is gonna be me? YuWon already knew that he would be asked to return to the past as he junior among all the other rankers. That is right. It was something that was talked about since the clock movement was first brought up, who would return to the past. It wasn't for certain, but there were two main candidates. YuWon and Sun Wukong. But while YuWon was absent, there must have been some sort of discussion because a decision was made. Why choose me? Sun Wukong is a better candidate than me. Because you entered last. Yet despite that, you are standing here right now. Sun Wukong raised his voice to clear doubts in YuWon's mind. It was true. YuWon entered the tower later than everyone else present. However, he adjusted to this world and climbed the tower faster than anyone else, arriving at this place where he could fight together. You didn't forget, right? Beings on the upper floors are restricted in how they can intervene with the lower floors. Hercules stepped up to talk to YuWon and spoke. So, to change the tower, we have to start from the lower floors and go up. Yeah, I know. That's why you're our only choice. YuWon let out a deep sigh as he reached out his hand. The clock movement continued to send time forward. The instructions would be registered in a person's mind as soon as they held the item. When you return in time, we probably won't have the same relationship we have now. So even if I don't recognize you, just let it slide. That I really won't know who you are. Everyone started saying their last words before the time regression starts. Knock some sense into the guys who can't comprehend the situation. If all else fails, you can just kill them. I hope you have a hard time, my friend. Each gave a word to YuWon. Now that this was the final farewell, they didn't hold back. You guys are never short for words. YuWon put on a melancholic smile as he gave his companions a good, final look. After the gods of the other realm appeared, they had no choice but to join forces. No one here was a companion in the beginning. Some were antagonistic and hostile. Some even aimed at each other's throats. But everything was different now. YuWon took Chronos' watch and held it in his hand to start the regression. The clock started releasing its energy with a sound spread all around. Recollecting, it seemed impossible. They were all very bullheaded. Kim YuWon thought in his mind. He was already filled with worry. He wondered if he'd be able to gather all these idiots together in one place after returning to the past. If they'd be able to fight the beings from the other world, if they'd be able to win this fight. If he'd be able to change everything for the better. The clock movement started moving backward. I guess I'm going to have a hard time. Within YuWon's field of vision, countless clock mechanisms started moving backward. The time regression begins. YuWon slowly opened his eyes after having been engulfed by countless clock movements. He could see his body. His body felt light like a deflated balloon. Stats, mana, everything that strengthened his body was gone. It was a shame. If he could have returned to the past with the powers he possessed, things would be a lot easier. So my body didn't return to the past. Instead, my time was rewound. After examining his full body, YuWon thought to himself. I guess that would have been much harder to make happen. Sending just the soul back in time versus sending a physical body back in time are two completely different sets of problems. When a body is sent back in time, you need to deal with the problem of having two versions of the same person in the same period, not to mention that it requires much greater energy to cross the timeline. So that would probably be an impossible feat, even for Chronos. This means I need to start over from zero. Returning to the past felt like waking up from a long slumber. To find out how far back in time he went back, YuWon started observing his surroundings. Wham! He felt a heavy impact on his face. What a shitty moment to return to. YuWon was stunned for a moment, as he heard the boy saying, "Wow, you withstand that blow." His blurry vision came back into focus, revealing a man in front of him. A well-toned physique, a long nose, and an attempt at making a scary expression. Who in the world is this? It happened so long ago, he couldn't remember right away. That's when YuWon noticed the clothes the man was wearing. Oh, right. Chongsol University. The man was wearing a letterman jacket from the university YuWon used to attend. His memories were fuzzy because it was such a distant memory, but looking at the letterman jacket helped him remember the fact that he used to be a college student. YuWon was at one of the gyms on campus. What was this guy's name? It was almost coming back to him. The boy threw another punch saying, "Look at this punk. Aren't you going to lower your head in front of a senior?" When his punch was missed, the man became visibly confused. YuWon bent down a little to avoid his punch. The boy was stunned for a moment and thought, how could this punk possibly dodge my punch? YuWon took a step back, muttering to himself, was it tomorrow, or was it today? What? The boy said in confusion. He could not understand what YuWon was muttering. What's today's date? If you answer me quickly, I'll forgive you for punching me since your weak punch didn't even really hurt. YuWon clenched his fist and warned the man. The man's expression turned extremely sour. He probably thought he was being mocked. What did you just say, punk? Do you lose your mind? What are you spouting nonsense? You even dropped the honorifics. With a loud bang, the man's head spun. The ceiling and the floor blending together was the last thing he saw before falling on his ass. As the man charged at YuWon, he dealt only a single blow to knock him out. I guess I don't need your help. I've got my phone, after all, YuWon said to the man lying on the floor. YuWon looked down at the fellow that was knocked out cold on the floor. School should be on break. Do you have anything better to do with your free time? There was no point to YuWon's question. In his pocket, he could feel his smartphone, which would tell him what he wanted to know. He took out his phone from his pocket. After checking the date on his phone, he saw the man's name in his call log. He finally remembered. It was a guy by the name of Kim Myung-hoon. He was a grade above YuWon, and he was well known for being a garbage human being in the physical education department. The date was December 31st, 2019. It was the last day of the year. YuWon remembered December 31st as the day the tutorial first started. What perfect timing. It was a good date. Not too early, not too late. There was no way to know if it was a coincidence or if Chronos set the date, but YuWon was pleased with his situation. The time was 3 p.m. So 9 hours till midnight. It wasn't a lot of time to prepare and select a location. I guess I'll be busy starting today. Not only was it December 31st, it was a Thursday, so Hongdae was overcrowded with people excited for their 4-day holiday. Everyone was busy doing their chores, without a hint of the calamity they will be facing soon. When Kim Myung-hoon finally regained consciousness, it was late evening. Myung-hoon was woken up by his phone vibrating. He had plans at 7 p.m. He was supposed to meet up with his friends for a drink over dinner. Damn it! Remembering why he was passed out, Kim Myung-hoon started swearing in anger. He got knocked out while lecturing his underclassmen. It was something he could never tell anyone out of sheer embarrassment. I'm going to teach that punk a proper lesson real soon. A lucky punch. That's what Myung-hoon brushed it off as. After quickly grabbing his belongings, Myung-hoon took a taxi to Hongdae. Once he cleaned up the nosebleed and brushed the dirt off his clothes, he looked fine again. Damn, this is a lot of people. Hey Kim Myung-hoon, here? Over here. You're late. We're charging you a late fee. Myung-hoon's friends had been waiting for him. Why were you so hard to get a hold of? You're an hour late. That'll be 50,000 won. Cut the crap. Myung-hoon just shrugs off their words with anger. He was already pissed at getting beaten at the hands of a junior. They served Myung-hoon a drink as soon as he sat down. Since they had already been drinking for an hour, one of them was flushed red. Hey now, why is he being such a downer? Didn't you just get back from blowing off some steam? Myung-hoon's friends asked him. I don't want to talk about it. Just give me another drink. He felt the need to get drunk, to overcome the anger. As per Myung-hoon's request, his friends mixed another glass of beer with soju. Thinking it'd raise his spirits, one of Myung-hoon's buddies asked him while handing him a drink, so, what did you do with Kim YuWon? Kim Myung-hoon's hand that was raising the drink to his lips froze for just a second. He got lost in thought for a moment before smirking and replying. He remembered the moment when he got punched by Kim YuWon and collapsed on the floor. I remember you now. It should be the school holidays now. Are you that bored? He listened to YuWon while lying on the floor unable to respond. YuWon further said, in any case, all the best. There is not much time left. Myung-hoon could not understand what YuWon was saying. But he could just right away tell his friends about everything. So he lied. I'd beat the shit out of him. I hope he made it to the hospital. Myung-hoon bragged in front of his friends and said, Come on, go a little bit easier. Or he might kill himself. One of the boys sitting beside Myung-hoon spoke. So what if he does? Doesn't that fucker not have any parents? Who's gonna come after us? Myung-hoon further said. You're right. Is it our fault if he commits suicide? If he kills himself because he was beaten up a few times, it's his fault for being such a little punk. Kim Myung-hoon was pleased by his friend's agreement. Everyone was partying. The bad memory from earlier that day was quickly fading away. It's fine. I'll just beat the crap out of him later. As long as he did that, he could claim that today's events never happened. Round 1 and Round 2 flashed by. After drinking just beer and soju, for Round 3, they decided to drink some expensive liquor. Why are there so many people today? It's a 4-day weekend. What time is it? It's 11:50 p.m. The cool breeze was gently sobering them up. When his head stopped feeling so hazy, Myung-hoon threw his finished cigarette on the ground and started walking. Let's get this over quickly if we are going to go. Myung-hoon spoke. Hey, let's get a move on. We don't want to sober up now, do we? Hey, isn't that Kim YuWon? A boy standing next to Myung-hoon noticed Kim YuWon. Amid a crowd, YuWon was standing still, holding a luggage case in one hand. People just brushed past YuWon, who stood like a statue. He wasn't moving, looking like he was waiting for someone. Where? Oh shit, it is him. Kim Myung-hoon froze over the words of his friends. He turned his head, pretending like nothing was wrong. Why is that punk here? Is this for real? It wasn't his day. Meeting Kim YuWon here and now, before even getting the chance to properly get his revenge. Doesn't he look fine? You're right. Is he waiting for someone? What's up with that carry-on? A lot of questions came across their minds as they watched YuWon amidst the crowd, standing there all fine. Let's go say hi. Myung-hoon spoke up in anger. Why greet him? What are y'all scheming? Myung-hoon's friends were already walking up to YuWon. I'm seriously going to kill him. Kim Myung-hoon ground his teeth in anger, remembering the event from earlier that day. Now that it had come to this, he decided to crush YuWon, even if it meant losing face in front of his friends. Hey Kim YuWon! Myung-hoon gave a loud voice to let it reach YuWon. Myung-hoon led his pack toward YuWon, a total of 6 people including himself. When outnumbering someone, one naturally felt no fear. Myung-hoon asked, baring his white teeth, what business you got here? The 6 surrounded YuWon. People started steering clear to avoid their threatening aura. It looked like a fight could break out at any moment. Instead of answering Myung-hoon's question, YuWon checked his electronic wristwatch. It's almost noon. Once he had checked the time, YuWon took the watch off his wrist and threw it to the ground. Enjoy your last 3 minutes. Since it'll be hell after that. YuWon opened up his large luggage case. He rummaged around, pulling stuff out as he spoke to them. They didn't know the events that were about to unfold, the kind of world they would have to start living in. That's why they did not know what a sweet and precious moment these last 3 minutes were. What? Punk, what are you blabbering about? Kim Myung-hoon walked menacingly toward YuWon, only to take a few steps back in fear. It was because he saw what YuWon pulled out of his luggage. YuWon, are you crazy? The items he pulled out were all very threatening weapons. A sashimi knife, Swiss Army knife, machete, an axe, and a bag whose contents were a mystery. YuWon hung the Swiss Army knife and axe on his waist and wielded the sashimi knife. Hey, apologize already. How hard did you beat this kid up that he's come to this? Yeah, bro. You're clearly in the wrong here. Myung-hoon's friends started blabbering nonstop. They were afraid out of their wits. Hey, YuWon. You shouldn't be like this either. I get that you're really angry, but... A crowd formed around YuWon, who was holding various weapons. People kept murmuring. Myung-hoon didn't dare approach YuWon, frightened by the sashimi knife. Some people even called the cops. 58 minutes. There wasn't a lot of time left. YuWon put the bag he pulled out of the luggage on his shoulder and looked around. This should be enough people. Hongdae. It was one of the most populated places in Seoul, according to YuWon's memories. It was Anyang previously. YuWon lifted his chin and looked up at the sky. The clouds stopped moving. Everyone was focused on the commotion. No one was paying any attention to the phenomenon that was occurring. They only saw the weapons YuWon was holding and that he was causing a ruckus. Finally. It's starting. Amid the chaos, YuWon checked the watch he dropped on the ground. It was almost 12 p.m., the time for New Year's Eve. A noise rang in his ears. The noise wasn't exclusive to YuWon. The hundreds and thousands of people roaming the streets of Hongdae covered their ears. Some people even fainted from the sound that rang inside their heads and eardrums. YuWon stood silent, watching the landscape morph around him. The ground split apart, and never-before-seen plants grew from the fissure. The color of the clouds floating in the sky inverted, turning black. The electronic watch froze at 20:20, midnight hours. The first things that could be heard once the ringing stopped were frightening roars. They're here. It's over the 3 minutes. The roars echoed between the buildings. YuWon, holding the knife in his hand, walked past Kim Myung-hoon and his gang. They were still covering their ears. District 20131 in population, 12,014. It was a welcoming message. 12,000 people. Picking Hongdae was not the wrong choice. Several strange voices could be heard from all over the place. The tutorial will now begin. A cry could be heard amid the ringing noise. While listening to the message, YuWon searched for the source of the cry. Survive the zombie horde. All zombies will perish after 30 minutes. It's all nonsensical. Monsters. Zombies? There are zombies. YuWon observed the people that screamed and ran in terror after discovering the zombies. It was unavoidable. The streets of Hongdae were far too small for how densely populated it was. The mission wasn't much different from what YuWon experienced before. But there was one difference. There is a lot of them now. It was the number of zombies that started appearing in the streets. The difficulty of the tutorial was different per area. The difficulty was related to the number of people, so the higher the population, the higher the difficulty. It made sense. Since more people could cooperate, the missions had to have stronger monsters to make things fair. At least, that would be the logical reasoning. Elsewhere, the streets would be wide and empty, leaving more room for people to escape. There would also be fewer zombies, significantly lowering the difficulty. There are just too many people in the streets. There wasn't an adequate place to run away to. Therefore, the streets of Hongdae would become flooded with the blood of people torn apart by zombies. There was only a single solution to this problem: when you can't run, you should fight. You can't survive such a large horde simply by running. As this place became a tutorial zone, you could only run so far, and zombies were hiding around every corner. And it's a normal reaction. YuWon was the same. Accepting the world as it was, adapting, and doing everything he could to survive only happened after the tutorial started. You can check your status by saying the activation phrase status window. You have obtained a basic weapon, old knife. YuWon checked out his inventory and obtained an old knife provided by the tower to deal with the zombies. Each person was given a weapon: knives, hammers, spears, and various other weapons. It seems like everyone was given a weapon that they could utilize well. YuWon was given a knife. Everyone who received their weapons was confused as to how they can fight with such dull weapons. YuWon tossed the knife away. It was an item with a dull blade. You could barely call it a weapon. I couldn't even kill 3 zombies with this thing. It would be a different story if he could utilize it well, but the old knife was just slightly better than going barehanded. In truth, it was no better than a steel rod. It was a weapon that was so old, it could break any time. On the other hand, the theme of the first tutorial was survival. The countless zombies would continue to respawn no matter how many you killed. Surviving, that won't be enough. YuWon unzipped his bags, opening a small bottle that was inside. The things YuWon had to do couldn't be achieved by simply clearing the tutorial normally. Before, simply surviving was enough, but now he had a more important objective. YuWon had brought other weapons to use instead of the old knife. And one more thing: YuWon poured the contents of the bottle onto the sashimi knife. Alright. Done preparing, YuWon had a fierce look in his eyes. He didn't need to check his status. He could feel what his starting stats were. Let's go. YuWon dove headfirst into the horde of zombies. Zombies were slow and weak, but to compensate, they were immune to pain and extremely hard to kill. You needed a lot of strength to kill them. There weren't a lot of people in the first tutorial who would be able to kill them. YuWon charged at the zombie with a single slash, cutting off its head. The tower notified you were the first to kill a zombie in your area. You have obtained 100 points. YuWon was smiling. It reminded him of his old days when he first climbed up the tower. Your experience points massively increased. You leveled up. Strength increased by 1. Dexterity increased by 1. Constitution increased by 1. Great, I can feel my body getting lighter. YuWon thought to himself. That's all for today. If you like the next part of this manhwa, just comment below. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to like, subscribe and comment for getting epic content on this channel. See you next time.